Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am excited to share a project for you today using the Spellbinders November 2023 Club Kits. This is part of a collaboration hop to bring you lots of inspiration using the Club Kits. So I'm using this large die of the month with some floral pieces, the 3D embossing folder of the month, and then I will also bring in the Fluted Classics Circles, which is one of my very favorite die sets from Spellbinders, or maybe anybody. I use it all the time. So I've brought in some white shimmer cardstock. It's about a 65 pound. So I'm just going to stick it straight into my folder and run that through my die cutting machine. If I were using a heavier weight cardstock, I would probably rub the back with a baby wipe just to add a little bit of moisture. But at 65 pounds, this embosses beautifully without any moisture needed. And then I'm going to trim that down to make it an A2 panel, 4 1/4 by 5.5. I like to trim it afterwards because sometimes these embossing folders have such a deep, rich emboss, which I love, but it kind of shrinks up your paper a little bit. And I wanted to make sure it was going to go edge to edge on my A2 note card. So I have a top folding note card here, though really you could go either direction. It doesn't really matter for this particular design. And I have adhered that with my Beacon 3-in-1. It's a solvent-based glue. Think like rubber cement, but better, right? Better for crafts. But it means I'm not adding any moisture and I'm not going to get any warping or wetness on my paper. I'm going to begin assembling my die cuts here, and I have just 2 of the floral pieces to begin with. So there's this one that's like a little floral bud, like a rose, but I don't know what kind of flowers these are supposed to be. I don't know. They're kind of whimsical, very pretty. And then these, I love that the little bit of black sort of peeks through the top of these buds. One of those I had to flip around because there is on the larger ones, I'm pointing to it there, like a little narrowing, almost triangular bit to the bottom of the oval. You need that to be closer to the stem. I find when assembling die cuts like this, it's always easier for me to put glue onto the larger piece, and then I just try to pick up the smaller piece with the wax end of my pickup tool. And then I'll just lay it right there on top. If I get too much glue, then they kind of float, and that's kind of what's happening here. So a little lighter on the glue, and then they'll stick right away, and I don't end up fiddling with them, but these were still pretty easy to put together. So here are the larger florals, and I wanted to do something a little different on this card. The die set is designed to take up an entire A2 card front, and then you can see how the large florals are a bit oddly shaped. They go right to the edge of the card and then they sort of flatten out on some of those petals. You can see where they would be in the corners there. And certainly you can do it like that, but you can look on the website and see that inspiration. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I've got my 2 lighter purple pieces catty corner of each other, and then I'm going to put my larger florals in opposite corners as well. And I'm going to do just a tiny little bit of surgery to get them to look a little more organic and not so much like they're trying to fit into a corner necessarily. I'm taking the greenery that is available. There's 1 leaf left over that I didn't end up using on this card because it kind of falls down and to the right. And if I was going to add another piece of greenery, I'd go down and to the left. But I'm going to trim this first one. I just took one of those really large petals that was sort of boxy looking, and I just trimmed it. I just curved it a little bit. And then down again, I've got that one sort of awkward, elongated petal that makes it fit beautifully into the corner if you're using it the one way the die was designed. But I always want to get more out of my dies. By the way, this is a hop. I mentioned that at the beginning. The idea is to give you lots of inspiration using the different Spellbinders Club kits. I am primarily a die cutter. So every month I get the large die of the month and I get the 3D embossing folder of the month. And then starting in January, I will also get the small die of the month because my very favorite kit is the Die Hard Club. So if that's the kind of thing that you like or the clubs that you get, I would love to have you join me here. You can hit the subscribe button and get lots of Spellbinders inspiration on this channel. To find the rest of the creators for this month's inspiration hop, just click on the hashtag in the title and that should bring up all of the other YouTube channels and their videos. If that's not working for you, or if you feel like there's probably more than what you're seeing, I will link each of the individual channels in the description box below the video, along with all of the supplies that I've used. I've tried to keep it pretty minimal mostly focusing in on that large day of the month in the 3D embossing folder. So back to my card, I am just gluing down the different pieces onto my card panel, and I'm being kind of generous with my glue. Again, that's a really deep, rich emboss, but I need the glue to ooze down into the cracks a little bit so I get good adhesion. I didn't leave it in the video, but once I kind of get all of these pieces into place, I did set some acrylic blocks on it, and I just gave it maybe 2 minutes, just a little bit of time to really grab hold before I started moving on. So this is the smallest of the fluted circles from that set, and I am adding some 1mm thin black foam squares from Spellbinders to the back. Again, I have a lot of dimension now. I've got the 3D embossed panel, I have other layers of cardstock, and so this just keeps everything nice and even, and I'm gonna put that right in the middle. There are several word dies that come in this set. There's Smile, Hello, and You, and I thought about putting the hello right in the middle, but at the end of the day, aside from die cutting, the other thing I do a lot on my channel is to use emergency sentiments. It's a free printable I put out on the 1st and 15th of the month, and so this is the one that came out at the beginning of November, and it has a bunch of 1 3/4 inch circle sentiments that fit perfectly on those fluted classics. This one says Hello Sunshine. This whole kit was themed around thinking of you sentiments. So I use removable adhesive to add that to the center. So if I change my mind, that's really easy to do later. For me, emergency sentiments are a way to like stock my stash with cards without committing to a particular sentiment. And that way it's easier for me to give my cards away when I'm really in need of one and I'm not scrambling last minute to make something new. To finish off this card and fill in some of those empty spaces, I'm adding some smooth gold discs from Spellbinders, and that will finish it off. I hope that this is inspiring for you. If you're new here, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and be sure to hop along for more inspiration from this month's club kits.